All right, welcome to my channel. This is Bruce the Boss Brooks. You are about to listen to sworn testimony in the Georgia hearing that occurred today. Evidence of voter irregularities that the left will swear to you that did not exist. But before we get into that video and those testimonies, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. Like this video, comment on this video, share this video. We will fight against the lies and the propaganda and the censorship that the big tech and the mainstream media is trying to present, that there's nothing to see here. And your subscriptions to the channel and liking this video go a long way in fighting against the censorship algorithm. All right, so with that said, this video is going to actually be broken up into two parts. The first part is state election officials who came to testify against the Trump team and the Trump administration, or a Trump administration legal team. And then on the second half of the video, then it's going to be the Trump legal team presenting their arguments. And then at the end of that, I'm going to then give my 2 cents commentary. All right, so please stay along for the whole video. It should only be about 12 minutes of testimony. So let's get into it. Let's roll.
I was worried about being asked, but as I sat here and I think about it, I want to pose the question, and if you don't have the information to answer it, then just say that.
Sure.
There's been a lot in the media about some of the elections officials or election board, I'm not sure what, that left while there was still some counting process going on. And the only reason I ask this question is that I believe with all my heart there's a lot of misinformation out that we're all struggling with, and we chase these little rabbits and they turn out to not be a rabbit at all. But if that is something you have knowledge of, for sure, one way or the other, and could speak to that, I think this might be a forum to help clarify
Yes, sir.
some of the rumors.
Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity, because I was with the elections director the night of the election when this came up. We originally, we were processing absentee ballots at State Farm Arena. We had a number of staff there who had been there since early that morning when the water break that we talked about earlier occurred. One of the managers had apparently directed some of the staff to leave about 10:30 that night. I was with the elections director when he told them, no, you need to ensure that staff stay and continue working. We still have a lot more work to do. Some of the employees did leave at 10:30, and at that time, my understanding is that at the time they left, or before they left, some of the observers also left. They may have had conversation with some of the workers there and told them they were leaving at 10:30. I wasn't personally there for that, so I can't speak to it. There were people, however, there was a Secretary of State monitor who stayed, and once there was clarification that these workers were going to continue, additional monitors stayed. So I believe it was a communication issue. I always say that every problem at some level is a communication problem, and I believe that is what occurred there. And there was no intentional misleading of anyone. There was nothing untoward that occurred. But some of the workers stayed at that time. Some workers stayed, some left. Some of the observers, as I understand it, had left. But there was a Secretary of State monitor there the entire time. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other.
So you just heard testimony from state election officials of this, should I say state of Georgia election officials, tried to make the case against what the Trump legal team would be making about an hour after they had left, by stating, yes, there were poll workers who decided to leave, others who decided to stay from both sides, and that there was a monitor there the whole time as well to ensure that there was no impropriety going on. So that was the state election officials of Georgia. You're now about to listen to the evidence presented by the Trump legal team to counter that argument that was just made an hour prior to them. So sit back, listen to the next, I believe, 8 to 11 minutes, and then I'll give my 2 cents at the end. Without further ado, let's roll.
volunteer. I am a lawyer, but I'm not acting as a lawyer in this case. I'm just helping out the legal team here. And going to explain to you the evidence that we have from State Farm Arena here in Fulton County, which goes to what Ray was talking about in terms of fraud or misrepresentation. So when that cues, okay. So it's going to be tough because I'm going to have to depart from the microphone and point out some things at times. You're looking at one big room here. This is where, according to our witnesses, who's given sworn affidavits, this is where the absentee ballots and military ballots are being tabulated on election day. So we have the tape from first thing in the morning all the way past the close of the polls. What you have is essentially two Republican field organizers who were sent here to be observers. At no time were they actually permitted to observe in a meaningful way. I'm sorry, I have a voice issue today. They are roped off with the press on the side.
Tell you what you could do to help us out so that everyone can hear who's live streaming. If you would tell us what you're going to point to, and then we'll point to it.
Okay. See what time it is. So we're at about 10 o'clock. And what you'll notice is that the workers are present, working, and you have, back in that corner I pointed out to you, the press and the Republican observers. So according to the witnesses, the Republican observers, there is a lady who has blonde braids who comes out to announce we're going to stop counting. Everyone go home. And in fact, we see that. What happens is everyone clears out, including the Republican observers and the press, but 4 people stay behind and continue counting and tabulating well into the night from that point, which is going to be about 10:25 when they all clear out, or 10:30. And they will continue counting unobserved, unsupervised, not in public view as your statute requires, until about 1 in the morning. The reason we know this is because when our Republican observers were forced to leave, they went to the Central Tabulation Center and they got word from a news crew that in fact counting had continued. They have information that not everybody left according to plan, and some people stayed behind. So this shocked them, so they returned back to State Farm Arena at about 1 o'clock in the morning, where they confirmed that in fact people had just left State Farm Arena in contravention of what they've been told by the supervisors who are running this operation. So, okay, we're still at about 10 o'clock. Can you take us to about 10:25 so we can see the change? You're going to watch this place be busy and filled up to emptied at some time between 10:25 and 10:35, which is consistent with what the affidavits say. Okay, so 10:25, they're still there. Let's go to 10:35. It takes it just a few minutes for the frames to actually catch up with it. There you go, with the time that you're seeing. So here you see it's all cleared out. We just went from 10:25 to 10:37. The place is a ghost town. This is where the people were vacated and told, go home, come back at 8:30. We will now stop working and stop counting. But notice who stays behind. You have 4 people, consistent with our affidavits, who stayed behind. And so you'll see the lady in purple. You'll see 2 women in yellow in the back, which is where the scanners are there at the top right frame. And then the lady with the blonde braids also, who told everyone to leave. Those are the 4 people who will stay behind. Those 2. Okay. Observer's still there. So the Republican observers said they were the last people to leave State Farm Arena, along with the Fox News crew, excepting those 4 people. So what you're going to see, look at the ladies in yellow. You'll see that they will begin just sitting still, doing nothing, ostensibly not working, because after all, they said they're going to stop counting. They will wait until the witnesses over there in that roped off area, the press and the observers, leave the room. Then you'll see them move into action and begin scanning ballots. Okay, so I think what we can do now is fast forward to about 11. Do you see them? Yeah. Okay, there they walk. They're walking off. But the ladies in yellow are still there. Yes, keep your eyes on the lady in purple and the 2 in yellow and the woman in the blue apron with blonde braids, because those are the people who stay behind. Okay, so what you're going to see happen at about 11 o'clock is, once everyone is gone, coast is clear, they are going to pull ballots out from underneath a table. Watch this table. So actually this will take a few minutes, but we did not know when we first watched this, okay, is it normal to store suitcases of ballots under a tablecloth? Is that how they run the place? Maybe this is what they've been doing all day. Maybe this is what they're doing under all the tables. So we went back and watched the video. It was a team of us. We don't see that. What we see is typically you're going to find ballots, back in this corner, or coming in through a door, and then they get moved and circulated throughout the room. And it can get a little confusing because they have these black containers of ballots. They have the U.S. Postal Service containers. But what we were trying to do when we determined that there were ballots being pulled out from underneath this table is, what was the chain of custody? Where did they come from? Who put them there? When did they put them there? We only reviewed this at about 1 in the morning last night for a couple of hours, so we're going to need about 14 hours to watch it carefully because we fast-forwarded through it several times and could not find that particular frame, but here's what we can tell you for sure. At about 8 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to roll this back and show it to you. There you go. So now they're going to start pulling these ballots out from under this table. This table, the black one, was placed there by the lady with the blonde braids at about 8:22 a.m. in the morning. So she put that table there. So the same person who's staying behind now, the same person who cleared the place out under the pretense that we're going to stop counting, is the person who put the table there at 8:22 in the morning. Yeah, I saw 4 suitcases come out from underneath the table. Yeah, upper right hand, you see the gentleman in red? So he just pulled one out. So what are these ballots doing there, separate from all the other ballots? And why are they only counting them whenever the place is cleared out with no witnesses? Is the question. So these machines can process about 3,000 ballots an hour. You have multiple machines there, and they're there for 2 hours. So you do the math. How many ballots went through those machines in those 2 hours when there was no one there to supervise, to be present, consistent with your statutes and rules, to supervise the tabulation? We believe that could easily be, and probably is certainly, beyond the margin of victory in this race. Because if it's only 3 scanners working for 2 hours, right, that's 18,000 ballots that went through. Forward to about 12:55 in the morning. Okay, so it's updated to 12:50. You can see these people are still there, up in the upper right-hand corner. Basically, they've wrapped up. This is the end of their operation. They've now completed about 2 hours of unsupervised tabulation of ballots. So now you're going to watch them leave. And let's fast forward to, let's go to 1:30. I think it's between 1:30 and 1:45 is when our two witnesses come back. They had to fight through security to get in there, but they did. And they say in their affidavits that two different people affirmed for them that people had been counting from, 10:30 when they cleared out until about approximately 5 minutes before they arrived. And they had the names of those people who told them that. Okay, now we're looking at, 1:42 in the morning. Is there a way to fast forward a bit or make it go a little faster? Okay, there are guys right there in the lower left-hand corner. So they've now returned to State Farm Arena, having heard from the press that they had continued counting because they wanted to see for themselves that that was really happening, which was a complete contradiction to what they had been told by at least one person from Fulton County, who's an employee and spokesperson, and also the lady in the blonde braids we spoke about earlier. And so they see for themselves. And from this we get the affidavit. I don't know the name of the lady in the blonde braids. They simply gave a description to us, and you can make out clearly who she is based on the people in the film. Lady in the blonde braids, halfway down her back, is the person who yelled out, "Everyone leave and stop counting." I believe Ms. Waller is the spokesperson for Fulton County Elections, who remained behind the other two people. They don't have names for. They just said they were older women, and one of them had the name Ruby across her shirt somewhere. And that's as much as they know about who those people were. So our guys go in, they look around, they ask a few questions, and they leave. It is from their affidavits that we even knew to ask about this. And you might recall that the press reported there was, I suppose, water break or water main break or pipe break or whatever, and that this was an excuse for people clearing out of State Farm Arena. It's not clear from the affidavits I saw whether or not that was the reason given by the election official or whether they gave any reason at all. They just said, "Stop, we're leaving, we'll be back at 8:30. So I don't know if that was at play here or not.
Now, some of these Democratic senators really weren't paying attention to the testimony at all. They just wanted to put out their talking points and hopefully, or was hoping that they got them in a trap by saying, "We heard counter testimony." Because listen to this senator respond to the evidence that was just presented to her. Roll.
Thank you for being with us. We heard from the Secretary of State's office earlier, just a couple hours ago, that they've investigated this repeatedly, that they had a monitor on site the entire time, and frankly, this has been debunked for weeks by our Secretary of State's office.
I doubt you've seen the video.
Evidence that I think.
So we'll ask questions. We'll have a time for statements at the conclusion.
Yeah, my question is, since this has been debunked repeatedly, what evidence can you give to us that counters what our elections officials have presented us with only an hour ago?
You just saw it. Your officials need to watch the video.
What about the fact that they say that they had a monitor there the entire time?
I can't speak for them.
Well, thank you. They said they had a monitor the whole time.
You're looking at the room.
There's no Secretary of State.
Then maybe we should invite them back in.
All right. Well, we need to do that. Senator Tillery, what number?
So look, her response was classic. That's drop the mic moment right there. She said, "What evidence did you have? Did you not just look at the video presentation that they just said? I don't care what the Georgia state officials just testified to earlier, you saw the video evidence. You saw the video there with your own two eyes. I don't think there was really any audio, but the lawyer was directing them and or narrating them through what was going on. You saw the video evidence. There was no monitor there. There was no other poll workers from the GOP. They were all told to leave, and then they waited for all of the other poll workers to leave so that just the 4 GOP poll workers can then start counting these mysterious ballots that they pulled up from underneath the table in these mysterious suitcases that, again, popped out of nowhere.
Did you mention that Chairman Pitts was there, or you spoke to him about being there during this episode?
I was not there. This is a witness affidavit that says he was there.
Okay.
Almost up until, he was one of the last people to leave. Not as late as the witnesses that we have, but he was there.
So he just told us he wasn't there just an hour ago.
Okay. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
One of the witness affidavits says he's there.
Well, okay, so we heard from
Senator Brass? No, ma'am. We need to move on. We have a lot.
So you just heard both testimonies overall. All right, so again, my take is they were trying to get them in a got you moment by presenting the state officials first so that whatever evidence that the Trump legal team will present, they can try to debunk right then and there and try to catch them, again, in a got you moment, live on airing on TV, even though mainstream media was not really covering this. But what happened instead was they weren't prepared for this, was video evidence. That Democratic senator kept trying to say it was debunked, it was debunked, it was debunked, because we have these officials telling us that no, all of the poll workers did not leave. You had some that stayed, and there was a monitor there, and they just testified to it. But they were not prepared for the video that the Trump legal team just got their hands on, actually, maybe hours prior to this testimony at around 1 in the morning today, Thursday, December the 3rd. They just got their hands on this video. They knew of it, because especially with the sworn affidavit testimony, but they just got their hands on the video that wasn't available prior to. And so everyone keeps saying, it was debunked, it was debunked, it was debunked. No, it wasn't. Now, on this story about debunk, and you're going to hear this a lot despite all of these hearings, and that's low information voters, is all of these testimonies are also backed by sworn affidavits. And so I've been arguing with individuals on Twitter for the past couple of weeks actually about this, how they'll either say words like it's uncollaborated and or it can be backed up or proved and or it's unsubstantiated, it's been debunked. Here's the thing, they must not know what an affidavit is, for one thing. And I'm kind of going off on a tangent a little bit, but this will help you with your arguments, is that a sworn affidavit is the same as being under oath. In fact, it was funny, during the Michigan hearings yesterday, one of the representatives, C.A. Johnson, and this goes to show either ignorance, willful ignorance, or they're preying, or the representatives, that is, on the officials and the people in the mainstream media, either they're ignorant or they're preying on the ignorance of the American public and not knowing what an affidavit is, because C.A. Johnson said, we need to put these people under, now she may be ignorant because she didn't even know what the word under oath meant. One of the other representatives there in the hearing had to tell her.
No one is under oath.
Point of order.
Point of order is to have them under oath.
You're out of order. As I've said, this is something that is not done here in this state. It's really only...
It may not be done under the state, but you're allowing people to come in here and lie, and I know they're lying.
Representative, you're out of order. I've given...
They keep pushing this narrative. It's, they should be under oath. They could be lying. They can be saying anything. But when they say that, you need to educate them like this.
And I signed something saying that if I'm wrong, I can go to prison. Did you?
May I say something, please?
Sure.
If that is what you want me to do, I will do it. And I will still repeat the exact same thing I watched. And you know what? I also want to say one thing. If it is a lie, it may change because a liar has to have a lot of memory power. If it is truth, you can ask me in the middle of the night, it will still be the same.
All right, I'm going to take this here.
a sworn affidavit is being under oath. So everything that they're saying, they're pretty much saying, I am willing to go to prison if any part of my testimony is proven false. Because a sworn affidavit is the same as being under oath. And if you lie on an affidavit statement, it is committing perjury. And if anything was ever debunked, why is there no one under arrest for perjury? Why is no one being sentenced to prison? Because at least I can speak to the state of Michigan, it comes with a mandatory, I believe, minimum prison sentence of 10 years. So if anything was debunked, why is no one found guilty? I'll tell you why. Nothing was ever debunked. They're just saying, deny, deny, deny. We don't believe it. We don't believe it. We'll take the word of our officials, even though none of them are under oath. None of them have sworn affidavits. And even if a lower court judge did dismiss a case, it doesn't mean that anything was proven false. Show me the investigation that proved any of this information false. Any of the dead people who were found on the voter ballots, any of the non-residential addresses found on these ballots was proven false. Tell me where that was. A denied case or dismissed case is not the equivalent of being debunked. But I digress. We have video. There is video there showing no monitor there. Individuals were being rushed out, and the second all of the other workers were told to go out, then all of a sudden these other Democratic poll watchers said, all right, it's our time to party for the next 2 hours. Let's go ratchet up 18,000 votes, because you heard the testimony, those machines can process 3,000 votes an hour. It was about 3 polling machines, 4 workers there working each of those 3 machines. So 3,000 times 3,000 an hour. There were 2 hours and 3 machines. There's your 18,000 secret ballots. And according to Georgia state law, they cannot be processed, and no ballots can be processed and or counted without any accountability or oversights by the media and or poll observers and a monitor who was not there. I gotta say, these election hearings, whether it was in Pennsylvania, Gettysburg, Michigan, Arizona, and now Georgia, and I believe Nevada is happening now. May do a video on that later. Look out for that, hit the notification bell. But I gotta say, they are dropping the crack in like nobody's business. It's been a lot of great testimony and evidence, piece by piece by piece. Just, again, yesterday in Michigan's hearing, we discovered that there were thousands of disqualified votes that were counted in, that a recount will not pick up. A recount's only gonna recount the unqualified ballots. You need to do an actual audit to now verify whether or not the ballots you are counting or even qualified, let alone were they even legally allowed to even count them. In certain situations, like in Georgia, that just exposed they were illegally counted to begin with. So these are getting very interesting. Keep watching these hearings, keep staying informed, because you'll hear, again, people say over and over and over again, it's been debunked, there's nothing here. And none of them can ever speak to any of the actual evidence that's being presented, much like with that senator right there who tried to say it was debunked, it was debunked, it was debunked. She was prepared to say that, hopefully getting in a got-to moment, never actually listening to or being aware that there was evidence to the contrary, i.e. this video that came in at the 11th hour that they were not prepared for. And that just goes to show that they'll stick with that narrative, it was debunked, despite the evidence being presented right there before them. There's the video. So that's my video. Leave your comments below. I believe it's going to be a political civil war, not a little civil war, but at least a political civil war, regardless of how this cuts, because there's clearly evidence, and yes, an affidavit is evidence given the weight or the penalty that's back behind it. It at least deserves an audit that needs to be done of all of these ballots in Michigan, Wisconsin. Well, we haven't had the Wisconsin hearing yet to hear the evidence for the world to see, but from what we saw in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and Michigan so far, they deserve an audit to be done. All you need to do is investigate. And I also find it interesting that Dominion is unwilling to testify, despite all of these claims being brought against them by some of their own contract workers and or computer forensic evidence specialists. They refuse to not only testify themselves, because I don't think they want to get in trouble, because they know it's true, but then they're also packing up shop. But again, regardless of how this it's not gonna be good, because if they just try to rush this election through and try to run out the clock and say, haha, we heard your evidence, we're gonna say nothing to see here, you're gonna have 73 million people who are listening and paying attention to the evidence voted one way and say, you just stole it from us, he's not our president, there's no way you can unify us. And then on the flip end, even if Trump does win this on the legal battle in court, which I believe he can, again, it's going to require audits, and this is going to have to go to the Supreme Court. There's been so much propaganda being pushed that this is over, Joe Biden won, the votes are being certified, that those on the left who are so willing to just buy the narrative, they're going to feel as though the vote was stolen. It's not going to work out that great either way, but we need to be presented with the truth, with the facts. And so that's what I'm just trying to do here with these videos. I want to know what you think. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to also, again, like this video, share this video. If you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe to this channel. This is Bruce the Boss Brooks, and I'm out. Peace.